Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video. This is one I was gonna make late yesterday, but I got sidetracked by a 2.5 hour podcast on the last word where I was debating Travis about Trials Matchmaking for pretty much 2.5 hours. I highly recommend you go watch that show, The Last Word, on YouTube. It was a very fun debate. Travis is very wrong about Trials Matchmaking, but it's fun to hear his side of things. And by the time that was done, I'm like, all right, I don't think I can talk about Trials anymore. So I saved this video for today, and it is now the next day here, and I'm kind of just processing what they talked about in the TWAP with the specific changes that are going live in just a few hours now. They are absorbing feedback from both weeks, and they gave us a lot of interesting data about how things kind of went, and it does reinforce sort of what I imagined about how the changes last week compared to the previous week, in that some areas were better and some were very much worse. So we'll see how things go here. I'm not going to do like a full read through, like word for word, just kind of go over what they talked about in this section here. So the big news is that Trials Labs is replacing Trials completely this week. Some people seem to think it was like an alternate option for it, which I actually thought that originally, but here it very clearly says the Trials of Osiris playlist is replaced with the Capture Zone. So this is its elimination, but now there is also a live Capture Zone that is going to be able to be captured by either team. And then you will have an advantage. If you didn't capture it last time, you'll spawn in a better spot, however that works. I am curious to see how this goes, because all I can think of is like 3 stag warlocks like rifting up in the zone, or a hunter shatter diving 3 members of a team in the zone. I guess it depends how this plays out. Like, obviously there can be fights outside the zone, and we can still get in our little like messenger battles pinging at each other. I feel like Mythoclast is probably going to go back to being the top gun this week, because it'll be, if there's an actual zone to capture, I feel like it'll be a little more closer combat than normal. We don't know what the map is. I assume it's just going to be one map, and it's not going to be multiple. But it's a fun little experiment. I think it's good to experiment with different modes. I imagine that this is not going to be like the permanent way Trials is going forward. I think they just wanted to see how it would go. Also this week there are double Trials rank points, so that means if you get to 20 rounds won, you will be getting 200 rep per game, win or loss, which is pretty significant. I'm feeling good about that because I just reset my rank, so I'm at the bottom again, so I will be getting a lot more engrams a lot more quickly. I'm not sure I have all the materials to focus them into. I am still looking for a chain reaction solo scar. That is literally what I'm farming for now. I have pretty good drops or old god rolls of pretty much every other Trials weapon, so that's kind of one of the last things I'm looking for. Obviously, I don't have god roll adept weapons for everything, but you can't farm those every week, and you have to go flawless to get them, so that's a whole other thing. I have been flawless the last 2 weekends, so I did get at least a couple good adept Shurias and a God Roll Adept Reed's Regrets with Triple Tap and Firing Line, so worked out well so far. Okay, so now they're talking about all the changes they made and how this has kind of increased participation in Trials and created better results, and they're doubling down on the fact that like they really need solo players to make the system work. So the first stat they give here is, for example, in our first week, a whopping 54% of games were full fire teams versus solos or duos. Cut to this week, where only 45% were fire teams versus solos, duos. A pretty sharp drop. Yeah, but that's still like almost half of your games being solos against a fire team. And I think anyone who has been solo has understood that if you're going up against a 3-stack, it is probably like a almost overwhelmingly high chance that you're going to lose that. I don't know if they have stats here, but like it seems at least like an 80% chance you're going to lose. It just you are not going to be able to communicate at all with your teammates because no one ever goes in team chat. And I just don't understand why they are matching randoms with solos duos this often, or with full fire teams this often. Like 45% still seems way too high, and I feel like that needs to be even lower than it is. One thing they do not talk about at all in here is the possibility of a freelance playlist, a freelance and then a dedicated threes playlist like we have with the survival playlist. So that might be something they try in the future. I think they mentioned in the past they were going to try that, but they did not talk about that happening here, and that is not happening today. So first 2 weeks of solo matchmaking, solo wins 23% of games, blowouts 5-0 losses 38% of games, and they went up over the course of the weekend. So this is what I experienced in week one, where for me, my experience generally speaking was week one was like the same kind of games for the most part as normal trials, and yet I was just getting more rewards. So like I was losing a ton. Obviously, I was losing at least 77% of the time, according to this, which is not terribly fun, and getting blown out at least 40% of the time, which is also not terribly fun. But at least I was getting rewards. So they changed with the flawless matchmaking pool. They took more flawless teams out, and these numbers changed. So solo wins went up to 36% of games. So you're winning 1 out of 3 games about, and then 5-0 losses went down to 29% of games. So that is better, and they want to keep these stats around this. So they want solo win rate above 30% and blowouts under 33%. It still doesn't feel amazing to win 1 out of 3 games as a solo, and again, I think a lot of that is matching up against full fire teams. One thing they mention here is that they are not implementing it for this weekend either, even though they talked about it, is removing the numbers from the matchmaking, because that does allow 3 stacks to essentially hunt solo teams. Because if you see, the numbers tick up one by one, you're playing a team of solos and you'll stay in that. If you don't see that happen, then you might be playing another 3 stack and you can back out. So maybe these numbers will go down if they remove that, but they are not doing that this week either. So that might be, it's not going to be next week because next week's Iron Banner, and then so it might be the week after that. Okay, so week 1, they saw 60% of matches either 5-0 or 5-1, which they consider not competitive. And then that dropped to 52% in week 2, but that is still not as low as they want it. They want it to be 30 to 40%. This definitely resonates with my play experience. Games were usually either a blowout one way or the other. Obviously, I was more often on the receiving end of the blowout, just because that's my skill level. But I would like to see that drop as well. I think that's good. Matchmaking times were, I would say, very good. There were only kind of select instances where you're in a very tiny pool of like players who have lost a bazillion things in a row, like, or players that are like ultra flawless. Like, so I think matchmaking times were definitely solid. I never felt like I was waiting super long for a game. I know they had an error with turning on the flawless pool too early, which probably screwed up matchmaking times for those people for a while. But this is one thing I think is they've done correctly. So they had 700,000 players this weekend, only 50,000 less than week 1. They said this is higher than they thought. That is higher than I would think, because I would figure there would just be kind of more of a drop-off between all the drama about the flawless pool and the fact that Distant Shore sucks. It was a terrible map, and I'm surprised more people didn't drop out of it. They had 250,000 players go flawless, so a little over 1 out of 3. So that was, I don't remember what the stats were for week 1, but I feel like that might be less overall. I'm not sure. Games were longer due to more competitive games with those stats we already saw. So things that didn't work. We saw 34% less matches played overall, and the number of matches post-flawless dropped by 45%. This, I think, is the flawless pool in action, where if you did go flawless, if you're one of these 250k people, I think you were a lot more likely to just stop playing for the weekend and just be like, all right, peace, I'm done. Like, there's no point farming because I'm in a much, much harder pool, and this is less fun now. I think that is a significant part of this. And then same thing with number of matches post-flawless. I assume that means... I originally was reading this as like on a post-flawless card, like if you were 7-0 and then you kept going, they might mean post-flawless in general, but either way, I'm sure it's probably true, because week 1 going, I did go flawless, and then my games after that, like my next 4 or 5 games were easier than the games before it, and I was able to like easily farm more adept weapons because I was getting matched against random teams. But now, post-flawless, you were probably playing other flawless people, so I would expect post-7-0 cards to be played a lot less. But these numbers do not surprise me, both based on the map and based on the flawless pool thing. They have reports of people resetting 5-0, 6-0 cards, but this only happens 16,000 times out of 2.7 million cards. So I know people were saying people were doing this, but it's not that widespread of a thing. They might change it so if you have not gotten a loss on a card or used your mercy, maybe you can't reset your card. I don't know. But I don't know if this is prevalent enough to be annoying. Like, I guess this would keep better players in the pool, and like people who are doing carries are doing this to reset their card, because if they took someone flawless, that person would go flawless, but you would be like 1-0 if you reset at 6-0. We'll see how that goes. So this stat, normally we see 50% of the players who go flawless doing so with someone else who's already flawless. Last week it was 56%. This can either be a traditional carry or just playing with friends. So the wording is kind of weird here, but I feel like it means you like going flawless for the first time in a weekend. You were doing it with other people who had already been flawless half the time. Last week it was over half the time. This week that number dropped to 16%, which is unacceptably low for friend game content. So what happened was exactly what I said. I wrote a whole article about like the main reason this doesn't work is because it builds a wall between friends and groups of players, where if you have gone flawless, you really just cannot play with your friends who have not gotten flawless yet, or that are like lower skill, because you will be dragging them into the flawless pool, and it will then become infinitely harder to carry them to flawless. So I saw many instances of people just like kind of refusing to play with one another because they didn't want to be dragged into a higher tier. I went flawless this weekend, and I did it in the flawless pool actually. So like I was dragged up by two really good players who were so good they were able to still win in the flawless pool with me on their team. I did okay, actually, surprisingly. But that was like, it's such a rare circumstance. Like, I couldn't have done that with like just my buddy who locked out and happened to get flawless that week. Like, I needed like a dedicated team for that, or else it would have been impossible. So that number dropping to that is nuts. And like, that is very much something they don't want to see. So what they're doing now is they are changing the flawless pool to not go live until Sunday. So this is kind of the best of both worlds, where if you are worried about the flawless pool like altering your experience or making it too hard, you can play trials pretty hardcore for all of Friday and Saturday. If you are the type of person who is scared of the normal pool and likes the flawless pool because it takes all the flawless people out, you can wait until Sunday and then use Sunday and Monday to play in an easier non-flawless pool to try and get yourself flawless. So it's kind of an interesting blend of the 2 weeks, and then eventually they're just trying to remove the flawless pool altogether. I assume they're just eventually going to be able to kind of map everyone's skill and put them in better match-made matches. So the flawless pool itself like does seem overly separatist and kind of discriminatory to the point where I understand why they want to get rid of it. But I do appreciate that they are making very fast changes here and experimenting like week to week in a way. Like, it used to take like 6 months for them to like implement some sort of significant change to anything, and now they're changing things in any given week here. So I think that's a good step forward, and we will see how kind of this blended system goes here. I'm not sure if it means, so when they're enabling the flawless pool, I don't know if it means if you go flawless after that point, you'll be in that pool, or if it counts like if you went flawless on Friday already, you would just automatically be in the flawless pool from then on. I think it would work like that, and then it would just kind of automatically separate all those people out instantly. That is my guess, but I guess we'll see. Also, additional things, you no longer get special ammo when you're revived, which I guess I didn't realize happened, but that makes sense. And then say 14, you have to hold things to, instead of pressing the button, to accidentally buy stuff because it costs so much. That's probably a good idea. Weapons you get from rank rewards will have masterworks. I didn't realize they changed on reset, so now I have like different ones than I did before. They're still the same perks across everybody, but I think there's like a messenger now in mine, so that's interesting. And yeah, so they're not doing the matchmaking counter change this time, and they do not mention anything about a solo queue playlist at all. So we will wait. Matchmaking. Yeah, okay. So they still don't mention that here, and they're looking to adjust rewards for round and match wins on 7-win cards. So round and match wins, yeah, there's no real benefit to winning rounds after you hit the 20, and which is, you can do in a couple of games. So I do think these need kind of a look. I have been really lucky with post 7-win flawless matches. Like I would say I've gotten an adept like 80% of the time on wins on a flawless card, but I know some people have gone really, really long without it. So yep. So, and then Iron Banner's coming, and remember, we are now doing things where if it's an Iron Banner week, we take a week off of trials, which I think everyone is in support of because that really screws up those pools in multiple ways, and I think that is a good idea overall. But anyway, that is the section here. I will mention Threads of Light briefly because I am very excited about this. Bungie is doing an actual fashion magazine. I definitely want to win this. Like I think you can be featured, but they're also picking 3 specific people for a cover in addition to people that win. Where are my entries? Memes. Okay, these are my entries I picked. This is my Hunter and using the new Bacchus ornament, which I love, and the Iron Banner crown thing, which I think is great. I really like that look. This is the setup for that, and then I did my Titan, who does not have any legendary pieces on for style points, and yet I really like this look as well. This is the helmet and chest are Eververse things, and then these other ones are older. And I don't know, I really like this look. I think it's cool, and we will see if I win. I need to get the new emblem. That's my goal, and I really want to be on the cover of this magazine, so we'll see if that happens. But anyway, that's all the stuff about trials, and we will see how it goes in T-minus 3 hours here as I'm filming this. So I don't know. I think the changes they're making sound good, and I think they recognize the pain points, and we'll see what happens. But thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.